Hello everyone and welcome back to the Prim Stitch Along Farmhouse Hoop 6 block. My name is Jennifer Long, Machine Embroidery Manager at Riley Blake Designs, and I'm having so much fun stitching along with you on this Prim Quilt Stitch Along. Today's block is the Farmhouse block. It is Hoop 6, and we are doing multiple applique in here, as well as those continuing star blocks, but we have a couple other things that I want to share in this pattern. It is on two different pages here, so page 28 and 29. I have them both here, and you're going to follow along as always on our instructions here, and these steps are correlating to your machines. If you are just finding us and discovering us now, we are doing a whole full stitch along for this quilt, and you can join us over on the YouTube channel and our blog to follow along. We also have a Facebook group called RBD M.E specifically for sharing what you are stitching that's related to RBD M.E machine embroidery, sew along and stitch alongs that we are doing. So today, if you have only joined us, you're going to want to go back and see we have a getting set video. We also have a stitch along for each of the blocks, but we are starting on hoop 6 today. I am stitching the 6x10 stitchable area here, but you can choose the wall quilt, lap, or the throw quilt. Going to just double check to make sure we have all of our supplies before we get started. I have the fabrics. I have 4 fabrics that we need for the Farmhouse block. If you are looking for these cute little labels, you can find them on your USB. It is a separate PDF download, and they are called block labels, and you can download them, cut them out, and it's just really helpful if you do all of your cutting ahead of time to have them there. I also like to label my blocks when they're done with them as well. So I have that all ready to go. I have all of my threads in the order that they appear here, and I did double check that none of them are repeating for this block. So we have all of them here in the order, and I have the first one already threaded up for and ready to go. And I have my 6x10 stitchable area, my hoop. I have my back fabric, which is PP, and it is already fused here to give it some stability and support. Those instructions are all in the cutting. And then I have my heavy weight tearaway stabilizer that's going to go inside the hoop as well. So we're going to get started right away, and we are going to start going through all of the blocks. I have my 6x10 size loaded up of the Farmhouse hoop, and everything is ready to go. I have my iron, my pressing mat, and of course I have my cute cuts ruler for the end, as well as a couple additional tools that I'll need. Right, so without further ado, let's get started. On this first spot here, you can see there isn't a number, and that is because it is an action step that we need to do. It is not a machine step. The machine steps have the number in a circle, and you'll notice that every block has a different heading color and circle color. That's intentional so that as you're working through the blocks, you are staying with the block that you want. You can see if I flip to another block, it is in a different color. So there's just little details like that that are just so fun to follow these patterns with. All right, so I'm going to take my hoop and I'm going to hoop my fuse stabilizer I'm going to hoop my stabilizer and my fused fabric together inside my hoop that's already pre-cut and it's ready to go. So I like to hoop on a flat surface, and that gives me the most control, and I don't want to like pull or stretch or torque the fabric, because then like the design can get shifted there, especially when you're trying to press it afterwards. So I just lay both of them on top of the bottom hoop, and then I carefully place the inner hoop inside. If you have a magnetic hoop, then you'll just place it on the top. And I'm just going to gently push it in. As it's pushing it in against a flat surface, it actually gets exactly where it needs to be. And I'm just going to hold it there and tighten it up. Perfect. And just like that, it's ready to go. The first step is a placement stitch. So you'll notice on these placement and lots of the tack down stitches, we don't have a thread color. You can choose which thread color you want. Our digitizing always shows it as the same color. It'll always show up as the same color on your machine. But you can just go ahead and have your first color in there if you want, or you're welcome to match the fabric, whatever you prefer. But it is going to all get covered up down the road here on step 8 with cover stitches. All right, so let's get started. I'm going to put this into the machine, and we're going to start with the very first step of the block, which is step 1, placement stitch. Okay, so I'm just going to take that out. I just want to show you one thing just so that you are aware. So you can see that that little moon stitched out, and it is on the bottom corner of the hoop. And you might be thinking, but it's on the top corner of this design. And that is because we are actually stitching the design out in a rectangle hoop this way. And that's just for like best use of all of the different types of hoops. So you will notice that it's rotated quarter turn here, and that is intentional. So that is the moon that's coming up on your bottom corner. It's just like this, the top right hand corner, but rotated. Okay, so the next thing we want to do here on step 2 is place the fabric right side out up, and that is fabric W. So I have fabric W here, and I'm going to place it right on top. Now we Riley Blake allows a 1/2 inch around all of the sides, or just sometimes a little bit less here around all of the sides. And that is just so that when you trim this block, that there's going to be enough to hold it all the way around for an applique. So you can place that nicely down on a hard surface so it stays nicely there and just let it stitch. Or if you want to washi tape the corners, you can do that as well in this step right here. And we're going to go ahead and stitch out step number 2, which is the tack down. A couple things I want you to notice when we stitch this out is that there will actually be 2 rows of stitches, and they are slightly offset from each other. And that's going to really help you in this next step when we do that trim step. Okay, let's go see what it does. Here's the cute little moon with the 2 stitches. Now we're going to do some trimming. Again, I really like to encourage you to trim on a flat surface, on a work surface, and you're going to grab a hold, and you don't have to pull really hard, but just nice and taut. And you're going to hold your scissors so that the curve of your applique scissors is just angled down towards without the point pointing in towards the table. And you are going to just go as very tight and as close as you can, taking little snips all the way around. Okay, I actually like to do one edge at a time. It's going to help me really get as close as we can. And if it's ergonomical, so if I'm not kind of doing a backwards cutting in this way, then it really helps trim all of the threads. So I'm actually going to rotate my hoop here and pull from the outside corner and continue on around. I'm going to pause and then grab the other corner as I'm coming around and cut. Now, if there's anything else left, I just do a quick little cleanup, but it's looking really, really great. And now you're going to thank yourself later when we get to the cover stitches if you've taken a little extra care with that trimming. All right. Hey. Okay, put that back how it's showing on the instructions, and we're going to do step 3, which you don't need to change your thread color again, and this is just a placement stitch so that you're going to know where to put your next fabric. This is going to be a new technique that we haven't done here yet, so I can't wait to show you. So let's just start with step 3 first. Okay, stitch out step 3, that placement stitch. All right, you can see your little side of the house is right here. So now we're moving on to step 4, which has new to us in this in this Prim stitch along, this stitch and flip. We haven't done this up until now. This is the first time it appears in this stitch along. So what the stitch and flip is you're going to grab these 2 fabrics. One is Q and one is J. So this is the Q fabric here. And then I am taking the J fabric next. Now it says to place them right sides together. So I've got the Q fabric placed right over top, just as if I would with any other tack down or applique, but I am lining it up. So it says align the fabrics with the bottom edge of the placement stitch with no excess fabric to the top. Okay, so you're going to put it right here. You're going to align this at the bottom here, and the excess fabric is at the top. Sorry, with the excess fabric to the top. Then you're going to take your J piece and you're going to flip it over so it's right sides together and align it there as well. So they are the same height. And so if you've aligned that first one, made sure you had enough on all the sides. I think I could even shift it over a little bit more. It is aligned with this bottom. So you can see here it's aligned right at the bottom. You can even just cover it over slightly, especially because you have a little bit of room there as well. You just don't want to make sure it's too small because this is going to be your seam right on this side. You can washi tape it here if you are worried, or I'm just going to make sure it's just nice and pushed on this flat surface. And then you're going to stitch out step number 4, which is the stitch and flip step. Okay. So you have your seam. You'll notice that that was a triple stitch. That's just to give your seam a little extra security while we are going to flip it over. So the next thing you do, there's an action step. It has 2 hands and we are going to get to work. You're going to flip the top fabric to the right and you can tape to secure. So you're going to flip it down to the right like this. A couple of tips and tricks that I would love to share with you is that I'm actually going to use my seam press ruler here and I'm just going to really push that seam down so that it's nice and flat. Look how flat that is showing already here. And then again, if you want to washi tape the corners here, you absolutely can. I have that really pressed super tight on a very flat surface, so it's feeling really, really secure. Okay, then we're going to go into a tack down stitch. It is going to tack down both of these along the houses, and it's going to, your tack down stitch has those 2 rows of stitches. Here's our little house. It's coming with the moon at the top. So back to trimming. We're going to do the same techniques that we did for the moon. We are going to hold on to that fabric and I am going to trim as close as I can up that angle. And when the angle changes, I can stop and rotate. I go right off the edge. And because this is a house that has 4 sides, I'm probably going to rotate my hoop 4 times. Nice, close, tight trimming is going to give your cover stitches the absolute best results that it can. And then I just take a moment to see if I have any loose threads. Inevitably, with all of the shaking of the machine, and depends how long it takes, sometimes your threads do come loose again. So you're always welcome to go ahead and trim before you do a cover stitch. But we're getting all these fabrics in place right now. Good. So it looks like this. Moving on to step 6, this is the vase or the vase here, and we are going to go ahead and do that placement stitch so we know where to put that fabric. One more applique to go, and that is fabric NN. So you can see on here, it is my last fabric. I just love stitching when I have everything prepped out. It just makes the process go so quick and fun and enjoyable. I'm going to take that piece and place it again, center it right on top of that, that placement stitch. And I'm just going to check that, make sure that it's nicely covered everywhere. And we're going to go ahead and tack that down with that double stitch. last applique trimming of this block, and then we move into a whole bunch of thread fun magic details. So again, I'm going to start on my flat surface. This one's a little tricky because it is four-sided, but it has some curves to it. So I like to just, again, always work in this direction when I'm cutting because I am right-handed. So I'm going to cut through to get myself right to that tip, and then I'm going to follow that curve around and move my hand as I work through that piece. Okay, because we're moving into the thread section, just take a moment and see if you have any little loose threads that you want to trim or cut. And take this moment to kind of clean up your area. Good. So it's really coming together already. Look at those cute fabrics, how they play together. Looks super whimsical and homey. All right, it's rotated this way. We've done our trim step, and we are moving on to thread number 18. Now, I already have thread 18 loaded into my machine, but if you don't have that, here's the time to do it. We are doing a cover stitch here, and you're going to just see how this covers up that whole great trimming that you did in a really fun way. Moving on to step 9, we are just changing our thread color. There's nothing we need to do as far as trimming here now. We're just going to change our thread color, which is thread number 21. I have that, I have my threads in my order here just so for quick and easy access. Again, I just love to do the extra prep so that the stitching becomes really enjoyable, and it's all about the stitching and not about like looking for the supplies. So just that little bit of prep ahead of time makes it just so fun and easy. Taking the next one in line, which is cover stitch thread number 21. You're going to notice that there is a piece that does not have the cover stitch on here, and that, don't worry about it. What we're about to do next is to put the door on here with thread, and so that's going to fill in. We really try at Riley Blake not to over cover stitch any areas so that nothing has a ton of extra bulk that's needed. So you can see that it was running through there, but no additional cover stitch. And look at the beautiful embossing on those stitches. Aren't they lovely? All right, we get to flip to the next page. So exciting. Okay, let's put that on top and find out what our next step is. So we have a couple of fun steps coming up here, and I want to work through them all together as well. So step number 10 is a fill stitch, and that is just changing our thread to this cute, adorable red color. It is thread number 11. You're going to notice that the machine is already set to start up here. So it's actually going to start and do the 2 chimneys first and then move over to the door. So we're going to allow that to do its work. And this is just floating here right now, but don't worry, it's going to have a roof on it. All right. So I'm taking this out to show you because a couple things I just wanted to show. So this has a running stitch underneath here, so don't worry, that's going to get covered up. If you have trim stitch set up on your machine, that's great. I turn mine off when I'm teaching so that I can show anybody that doesn't have it what to do and where to do it. So because there's a jump stitch that's happening here, if your machine doesn't have that setting or your setting is turned off, you're going to have a jump stitch that you need to trim there. So if you don't, you can just miss this step. If you do have that on your machine, then you just want to trim that off both from the front, and I always ask that you do it on the back as well, just to kind of keep it nice and clean. And I take this opportunity often just to like tidy up my back if there was any threads. I like to keep a really clean back, and that actually helps keep a really clean front. All right, so again, it's coming together and looking really, really wonderful. Good job, everyone. Next up is step 11. This is thread number 15, and there is a lot that's happening with this. So the stars, as well as the roof appears. If you have any tension issues in your machine, there is an option. Because this is a darker color, it is a brown, there's a few things you can do. If you don't have any tension issues in your machine, then just go ahead and put this in and go right ahead and stitch this out. If you do, it doesn't hurt if you want to wind a brown bobbin and put a brown bobbin in there. Adjust your tension if you know how to, or you can just put like a matching bobbin in there, and that will resolve any issue of anything peeking out. But if you don't, then we'll just go ahead and just change this thread color, and we're going to stitch out step number 11, which has a few fun details. It's really going to come to life. Wasn't that fun? Oh, wow. It's certainly coming together. I just want to take a moment to appreciate all of the variety of stitching that's happening in here, from the dimensional stitching inside the sawtooth stars to the center here, to the shingles on the roof. Isn't that just adorable? To kind of the lacy windows that are happening inside of there. So much fun. Again, if you need to trim any jump stitches because of your machine, this is the time that you do that, both on the front and on the back of your embroidery design. If you don't, then you can just enjoy and really maybe even take some photos of your progress and share them in our private Facebook group. And I will also trim the back here as well. Before we continue on to the next step, I do want to remind you that if you changed your bobbin thread color to a brown to match, that you change it back now to your standard bobbin. So this would be the time that you switch your bobbin thread if you changed it already. And moving on to step 12, we are going to switch to thread number 3, and just mimicking a lot of what's been happening in the other blocks in the Prim stitch along. We are bringing all of these cohesive stars into here. So we are doing what I always say is one of my favorite insides for the star, and that's just mimicking one of the plaids here in thread number 3. So we're going to stitch out step number 12 together. Wonderful. All right, so that stitch number 12 is complete. If you need to trim your any jump stitches, you can do that as well. And we're going to move on together to step number 13. We are switching to thread number 17, and this is for the flowers, and it's really going to kind of give life to this farmhouse here. So we are going to add those 2 flowers in, and you're going to just see again how those stitches are actually mimicking the fabrics of Bee in My Bonnet here while they are just stitching out without having to do all of this tiny applique. It's actually coming through in the thread work. So the thread is the star for sure in this stitch along. So I don't know how you're feeling when you're stitching these out, but every time I stitch a new fill stitch of Bee in My Bonnet of Lori Holt, I just feel like, oh, this is now my favorite fill stitch. It's just so much fun to see this come to life together, and I cannot wait to see what you are creating with these as well. All right, so if you need to trim your jump stitch here, please do so, and we'll keep moving right along. We are getting near the end, but there's some really important things coming up, so please stay with me. Next, we are moving on to thread number 8 for step 14, and this is just a fill stitch. It's going to create the stems of the flowers and cover up the bottom of the flower as well. So it's, yeah, just a pretty easy stitch for this green stitch to happen on step number 14. Just make sure that your machine is on 14 and that all of your extra threads are trimmed. Number 15 is next, and that is that golden yellow color, thread number 5, and this is a cover stitch. It is going to go all around that vase or that vase with the little handles on it, and as well as cover up the moon and really finish off this project. We still have a few more steps to do after this, but I really strongly feel that this one is going to just up the wow factor. So I can't wait to stitch out step number 15. I am going to use this not trim and jump stitch as an excuse to pull this out and enjoy it with you. So exciting. Look at the adorable cover stitches that are happening. Did you notice the difference in the base here as well as the handles? It's just really bringing this whole design to life. Again, if you have your trim step set on for your jump stitches, you won't have to worry about what I'm about to do, but I just also wanted to take an opportunity to really enjoy this process with you together. If you don't have the capability on your machine or it's off, this is your chance to do that. And again, I just like to keep the back really nice and tidy. So anything that I notice while I'm back here, I just want to kind of tidy it up. Okay, everyone, now we are moving on to step 16. This is another fill stitch. It's going to be filling in the leaves here, and we are using thread number 7 for this. So it is a different green than we've been using here. This is thread number 7, and we are going to just see how that's all coming together. So go ahead and switch that color in your machine, and let's stitch that number 16 on your machine step out. So here is your farmhouse block, fully stitched out, but we still have one more step. And I just want you to take a moment before we do that step to just really clean up your design, meaning if there's any threads that are sticking out here, just take a trim on them or on the back as well. If there are any extra threads, maybe you would like to trim them. This is the time to do it. The last step that we're about to do is see, there's a little thread that's caught there, is the crosshair step. And I'm going to speak on the importance of it right away. But I just wanted to share, isn't this the way it's going around the edge? Isn't it just adorable and full of life? Oh, it makes me so happy. Okay, so step number 17, which we're about to stitch out, is the crosshair step. Please don't miss this step. It is a simple step to pull out after. It's a basting stitch. It does not hurt your design at all, but it really enables you to center your block exactly as it needs and have everything that you're going to need for your seam allowances. These blocks are centered in, like this block is centered in their block, but not always in the hoop stitching is the block centered. Sometimes there is a little bit more space to the top right, or to get the whole design in, the block is quite a bit larger than the hoop. And so it's really important to do these extra steps and take these extra care so that when you are stitching out your design and then you go to trim it, that you are fully aligned in exactly where it should be to trim. We always at Riley Blake Designs try to max out the capability of your hoops so you can get the biggest, best designs that you possibly can in the hoop sizes that you are stitching in, as well as using other techniques to ensure that we can achieve those results, such as this trimming technique. So you can go ahead and a couple things, leave the threads as they are, or if you want to be able to see them really well, this would be a great time to change both the bobbin and the top thread, let's say to a dark color like black. It would be really easy to see which ones you have to pull out. So I will leave that up to you. And we're going to go ahead and stitch out step 17, which is the crosshair step. Now your stitching is finished. Okay, let's go through the final instructions together to make sure we get the best results for our block and prepare ourselves ahead for the later setting that we will be doing together. We're going to remove this block from the embroidery hoop. So you're going to release the block. I'm going to move my hoop over to the side and just flatten it out. The next thing you're going to do is carefully remove the stabilizer at the back. So I love to do this again on my hard surface. I feel like it really gives the stitches the best support that we can, and without distorting everything else. So I use the surface to help me tear away just this back stabilizer. The one you fused is staying on the fabric. So again, just like I do ergonomically when we are trimming the applique, I like to do the same thing when I'm tearing. I feel like I have the most control when I tear to myself, towards myself, and I put my finger on the stitches as I tear away. And this just makes me feel like I'm not distorting the design and then getting the most control. If you want to rotate it and keep going, you can. Or sometimes here, I just like to tear this right off, and so that I'm dealing with a lot less paper. Okay, or stabilizer. I'm going to do the same thing around here again and try to get into the edges, but you do not have to worry about getting into the design just yet. We are going to use some tools to do that together to keep our designs intact. I'm going to take this off again here like this. So a couple things you can use. I have these two tools that I actually really love to use when I'm tearing away stabilizer. One is the Riley Blake point turner, and this one is a quilty hemostat. And you can get both of those at Riley Blake Designs. I like to use the quilty hemostat because it's nice and long and has a blunt edge, and it kind of can grab. So when I have to get myself into like a skinny little spot and then pull, it does a really nice job of getting that started for me. And then I can just get in there and pull it out. So it's things like this between the leaves. I can really like pull it down the neck, and it's not hurting the fabric at all. Then I'm going to move into my point turner for these inside pieces, because I feel like it has a blunt enough edge, but still a little bit of a point that I can get along the edge, and it just lifts it up, and then I can pull those pieces from inside. Okay, so that's step number 2, to carefully tear away all of those stabilizers. Number 3 is to press. So we're going to take this design, and I am going to move my pressing station here so you can see it. So step 3, I actually have a wool pressing mat, and then I have like this Jill Lily pressing mat. I have it folded in twice just because I don't have a ton of space here. but I love, love, love it for machine embroidery as well as hand applique, but because it really preserves the depth of the design, it gives it something soft to work against while you are pressing. So we don't want to squash or overheat our threads. We want to keep that sheen that we have stitching. So place it face down and just give it a little press. And again, you're not pulling the iron along, you are just pressing up and down just to kind of flatten and heat all of those areas and kind of resetting anything that you might have torqued at all when you were pulling the stabilizer out. And we will move on to, I always think this is like the magic step. This is such a satisfying step. So we're going to move into this crosshair step right here. The crosshair is actually matching the crosshairs, if you will, on the Cute Cuts ruler. There is this trimming machine block guide at the bottom of every single block in the Riley Blake machine embroidery patterns that needs trimming. This is like a quick and fast and easy way. Although so far, all of our blocks have been trimming the same size for the hoop that you're making, not every pattern or not every block in this quilt will actually be that way. Some of the border ones are different. So it's a really good habit to get into, to just always double check your trimming before you go ahead and trim it. I am doing the 6 by 10 stitchable area, so my block is going to be trimmed to 6.5 by 6.5. Depending how you are, it's 8.5 by 8.5 with the 8 by 12, and the 9 by 14 is actually 10.5 by 10.5. So I'm going to line up the crosshairs on this ruler with the crosshairs that we stitched out. It really allows you to make sure that your block is totally centered. Sometimes you can put your block that's in the hoop. I mean, this one has a nice straight bottom, but not always do they. So sometimes you can actually get your fabric slightly twisted in there in the hoop. And in that case, the crosshair is still going to keep it straight. So you're not trimming the block in this wonky direction. You would still line up the crosshairs, and it just really ensures accuracy. So I just love, love, love that. I'm going to line up the crosshairs there. And before I begin trimming, I just want to take my finger along this 1/4 inch seam allowance on these trim it rulers and just make sure that nothing in my design is hitting it. Perhaps your machine got hit and uncalibrated and something happened and your crosshairs were off. And that's just an extra step to do before you go through the irreversible step of trimming. So again, I'm going to make sure those are totally lined up. I did just check, and I am going to trim just 2 sides of these blocks to start. 1 and 2. Good. And because I want to have the same kind of pressure and not have anything shift, I am going to rotate my block around. And I'm going to reposition this again. So I'm going to just make sure that that's aligned with my crosshairs and take a moment and make sure it's aligned with the edge. Check my seam allowance and trim. Looks like I need to change my blade. I'll do that for next video, promise. Okay. So here we go, everyone. All right, the last thing we want to do is, before we put this block aside, is remove those crosshairs. We're going to gently remove them, and I recommend removing them from the back first. So taking your seam ripper, just hop into some. You don't have to do every one, maybe every 3rd or so basting stitch, and just kind of pull it up and cut it. When you come back to the front, you're going to see how easy those actually pull out because of that. If you switched colors there for your bobbin thread, that'll be even easier. So when I grab this, watch how it just pulls the whole thing out. The whole thing just came out there, and I'll just cut once there and once there. So the whole thing came out so easily once I just pulled the bobbin. And then I'm going to clean up the back. This is just an extra tip and trick because you want to be careful you don't cut your design, but we also don't want any threads showing when we go ahead and quilt this. So I do just take a moment, depending on the type of machine you have and the cut stitch, how your machine cuts. If you have any threads that just need to be cut there, this is a great time to do them and get those out of your way. So here is our farmhouse star block. It is stunning and beautiful and so, so, so exciting. I love how country and warm it feels. Don't forget to put your label, your block label, on the back of your design. I'm just going to pin it here. So let me get to our final setting. It's going to be fun and easy, and we'll know where everything is. So here is our farmhouse star block, complete, done in the Prim stitch along. And before I let you go, we need to keep the tradition going of here I have them, all of our blocks, and just enjoying them. We're getting quite the amount of blocks coming, and it's been just such a fun stitch along to stitch together. So as always, please come and join us inside the RBD and M.E Machine Embroidery Facebook group. Share your progress, share it on social. We want to see what you are creating. And thank you so much for joining us for the Prim Stitch Along Farmhouse block. See you again next time for our next block.